A lot of them, you know. Initially, even I had a, how do you say, a distorted idea of what spirituality is all about. Normally what we think spirituality is, you become wiser, you become, you know, more learned, you become more grave, you become more serious. So the first lesson, Master, that I learned from my teacher was that nothing changes. Really nothing changes in this exterior of yours. You can still be as frivolous as you are, you can still have fun in your life as you are, and still be a spiritual person. What's the criteria of spirituality? What's the criteria of a spiritual experience? And Master in his very basic course has taught us to live by virtues. That is it. So he tells you that in Ashtanga Yoga, you start yoga with yama niyama. Everybody wants to do dhyana and sadhana and reach, what do you call? Samadhi. But that's the 7th and the 8th one. What about the first 2 steps? Yama niyama. You don't start your journey of yoga unless you work on the yama niyama, and that is what he said. The primary 3 virtues in your life that you should practice is loving kindness and non-injury, generosity and non-stealing, honesty and non-lying. And this he taught you at the very beginning when you joined the journey with him. He takes you on the journey. Mahatma Choa is not like another teacher who made a methodology and sells it. I always tell people, the difference between Mahatma Choa and other teachers is he's not a hawker. He's not hawking his wares. He's your teacher on the journey. He takes you on this journey. He leads you on this journey. Healing actually is a bluff. He's teaching you healing so that you understand the existence of a subtle reality. The whole of spirituality happens in a subtle reality. But you don't know what is a subtle reality. So you get all these types of, hoax stuff coming up. No? As a youngster, I belong to the Woodstock generation. No? What were we seeking at that time? We were seeking something, but we don't know. And we don't know the methodology. So what do? You go to drugs, you go to alcohol, you go everywhere. You're seeking. It gives you no answers, but gets you hooked. And so it is with so many other things, so-called spiritual things. It gives you no answers, but gets you hooked. Here is one school where you are free to walk on it, walk off it, walk back on it, walk off it again, how you wish. It's an understanding of the subtle reality. So, he taught us 3 primary virtues. And he said practice of these 3 virtues enables you to walk on the spiritual path. To the degree you master the 3 virtues, to that degree your connection with your higher soul is established. To the degree your connection with your higher soul is established, to that degree is your spiritual development. Spirituality is not growing horns, not growing wings, not growing a tail. Nothing happens. You don't need any exterior like growing a beard, wearing a special garb, wearing long hair, putting mala in the neck, or wearing some robes, uttering some very high-sounding words which nobody understands or very few understand. Spirituality is your personal growth. How good a human being have you become? And the only criteria to judge you as a good human being is how well you practice these 3 primary virtues, how much loving and kind you are, how generous you are, how less you steal. All of us steal something or the other from somebody, but how less? And how honest you are. These are the 3 virtues. This makes you a good human being. A good human being is one who practices these 3 virtues. Therefore, he spreads joy, he spreads love, he spreads honesty, harmony in society. And this happens how? It happens because it's connection with the Divine Being. And the Divine Being connection happens only when you're properly connected with your soul, with your higher soul. And that's the criteria of a spiritual person. How did it affect my life? Well, I used to be a very violent person.
Yes.
Extremely violent person. I grew up in Bombay. I grew up in the back streets of Bombay, and extremely violent person. I realized that violence is against the development of the soul. I realized nobody had to force me, because nobody can force. How can anybody force you? You're an adult, grown-up person, accomplished person in society. But I realized. I realized it because when I practiced loving kindness instead of injury, I realized how beautifully my life was working. And then when I practiced violence, how everything comes down like a pack of cards. I can get back. I can still be a loving and kind person. Most of us are loving and kind to our children, to our family, to our community, but we aren't so with others. When I begin to expand the circle in which I'm practicing loving kindness and non-injury, I began to realize how more beneficial and how more gratifying my life was. When I became generous, and I learned generosity, and not to steal from others, there came in an integrity in my life which I never had before. How people began to depend on me, and how they began to respect me, and how I began to respect them. And the interactions changed completely. That I was never able to go back even if I wanted to. And honesty and non-lying, well, it is a virtue very difficult to practice. But to a great degree, when you achieve honesty and non-lying to a great degree, you begin to realize how your life becomes so calm. You tell no lies, you have to hide nothing. You tell lies because you don't want to expose some part of your life. And having told a lie, now you have to still cover up. And your whole life is a whole mess of cover up. When you're honest and straight, there's nothing to hide. You don't waste your time. You don't waste your energy. You have so much more energy and so much more time to do contributory work. And then when I began to realize that real spirituality is in the contribution you make into the lives of other people. Fortunately, Master, I learned the art of healing. And I did work at basically a scientist, so if I do something, I do it properly. So I learned the system very correctly. I learned the methodology very correctly. And I applied it like a textbook player. I was a textbook healer. In fact, I still have the books with me in my drawer. If a patient comes to me, I have no qualms in opening the book and looking for a solution. I'm not the teacher. I didn't invent the system. Somebody invented the system. He knows better than me. I have no problem with that. If I have to be a good healer, if somebody comes to me for healing, he comes to me with a faith that I'm going to heal him. That faith is not in me. That faith is in the system that my teacher made. I am the representative of my teacher. The best I can do, or the least I can do, is to keep that faith, if not enhance it, not spoil it. So, be honest. People come to you, you do healing. They get good, they get well, they go. the amount of satisfaction I drew, I am a businessman.
Yes.
I became a businessman at a very young age of my life. I make a technically excellent product. We are one of the 5 best in the world. But even then I did not have gratification. I have money. I have position in society. Whatever people dream of, to a great extent I have it. But I never had that type of satisfaction. That somebody who comes to me with a tear in the eye goes with a smile on the face. That satisfaction I never had. And that is what I remember Mahatma Choa telling me when I asked him, what is it that I will achieve if I become a good human being, if I walk on the spiritual path? He says, this is something I cannot explain to you. Spirituality cannot be explained. Spirituality has to be experienced. You will experience it. And it's a fact. The experience of contributing into the lives of other people, contributing to the well-being of other people, is something that cannot be explained. You experience it yourself. And you look back in your own life and you see how much your life is being transformed. When you're doing nothing, you're doing something for others.
Yeah.
And you see the transformation in your life. So that is one of the greatest lessons I learned. And that's the greatest contribution he has ever made in my life. And what I could learn from him was the practice of these virtues. And as we went further in our studies of spirituality, the same 3 virtues were expanded into another 2 more virtues. And surprisingly, a very high level of yoga that he teaches us, called the Aratic Yoga, is all about practicing these 5 virtues. And that's the beauty. So it's not about how many phrases you know, how many stanzas you learned, and how well you know the Bible, or how well you know the Gita, or how you can recite something. It's about how well you lead your life and how much you contribute into the lives of other people and their welfare. That's it.